Are you struggling to wrap your head around Kubernetes pods, services, and deployments? Most DevOps aspirants fail their first certification attempt because they don't understand how these components actually talk to each other. In this video, we will cover Kubernetes practice questions, complete DevOps certification exam prep, master the fundamentals of Kubernetes with this comprehensive practice exam guide. In this video, we are breaking down 30 high-yield practice questions designed to mimic the actual Kubernetes basics exam. We won't just give you the answers. We'll dive deep into the why behind every concept. Before we jump into question 1, make sure to hit that subscribe button and grab a notepad. You're going to want to take notes on these explanations. Which component is known as the brain of the Kubernetes cluster? Responsible for maintaining the desired state? Option A, kubelet. Option B, kube AppServer. Option C, kube controller manager. Option D, etcd. The correct answer is C. The Kube Controller Manager is a daemon that embeds the core control loops shipped with Kubernetes. In applications of robotics and automation, a control loop is a non-terminating loop that regulates the state of the system. In Kubernetes, the controller manager is responsible for maintaining the desired state, e.g., ensuring the right number of pods are running, by constantly watching the shared state of the cluster through the API server and making changes to move the current state toward the desired state. What is the smallest deployable unit of computing that you can create and manage in Kubernetes? Option A, container. Option B, pod. Option C, service. Option D, deployment. The correct answer is B. A pod is the smallest and simplest unit in the Kubernetes object model that you create or deploy. A pod represents a single instance of a running process in your cluster. While containers exist inside pods, Kubernetes interacts with the pod level rather than the container level directly. Pods can contain one or more containers that share the same network namespace and storage volumes. Which service type exposes the service on a static port on each node's IP? Option A, ClusterIP. Option B, LoadBalancer. Option C, NodePort. Option D, external name. The correct answer is C. NodePort is a configuration that exposes the service on each node's IP at a static port. The NodePort, a cluster IP service, to which the NodePort service routes, is automatically created. You'll be able to contact the NodePort service from outside the cluster by requesting less than node IP greater than, less than NodePort greater than. The default range for node ports is 30000-32767. Which component is responsible for monitoring the cluster for newly created pods that have no node assigned, and selecting a node for them to run on? Option A, Kube Scheduler. Option B, Kube Proxy. Option C, Cloud Controller Manager. Option D, Container Runtime. The correct answer is A. The Kube Scheduler is a control plane component that watches for newly created pods with no assigned node and selects a node for them to run on. Factors taken into account for scheduling decisions include individual and collective resource requirements, hardware, software, policy constraints, affinity and anti-affinity specifications, and workload interference. Which object allows a user to abstract the details of how storage is provided from how it is Consumed? Option A. Persistent volume. PV. Option B. Persistent volume claim. PVC. Option C. Config map. Option D. Storage class. The correct answer is B. A persistent volume claim. PVC is a request for storage by a user. It is similar to a pod. Pods consume node resources and PVCs consume PV resources. While persistent volumes provide the actual storage, the PVC allows a developer to request specific size and access modes without needing to know the underlying infrastructure, like AWS EBS or GCEPD, used to provide that storage. You need to ensure that exactly one copy of a specific pod runs on every node in the cluster. Which resource should you use? Option A. Deployment. Option B. Replica set. Option C. Daemon set. Option D. Stateful set. The correct answer is C. A daemon set ensures that all, or some, nodes run a copy of a pod. As nodes are added to the cluster, pods are added to them. As nodes are removed from the cluster, those pods are garbage collected. Typical use cases for daemon sets are running cluster storage daemons, like Glustered, logs collection daemons, like Fluented, or node monitoring daemons, like collectd. Which Kubernetes object is specifically designed to store sensitive information like passwords or SSH keys? Option A. Config map. Option B. Secret. Option C. Volume. Option D. Annotation. The correct answer is B. Secrets are similar to config maps but are specifically intended to hold confidential data. They are stored in base64 encoded format. Kubernetes provides additional layers of protection for secrets, such as ensuring they are only provided to nodes that have pods requiring them and storing them in TMPFS RAM, so they aren't written to disk on the nodes. If the etcd component of a Kubernetes cluster becomes unavailable, what is the immediate impact? Option A. All running pods will immediately crash. Option B. Existing workloads continue to run, but no new resources can be created or modified. Option C. The kubelet will take over the API server responsibilities. Option D. The cluster will automatically promote a worker node to a master node. The correct answer is B. etcd is the consistent and highly available key-value store used as Kubernetes backing store for all cluster data. If etcd is down, the API server cannot read or write data. This means you cannot perform any write operations, create, update, delete pods, services, etc. However, the kubelets on the nodes will continue to run the containers already assigned to them based on their last known instructions. Which strategy does a deployment use by default to replace old pods with new ones? Option A. Recreate. Option B. Rolling update. Option C. Blue, green. Option D. Canary. The correct answer is B. The rolling update strategy is the default for Kubernetes deployments. It replaces the old pods with new ones gradually, ensuring that a certain number of pods remain available during the update process. This prevents downtime. The recreate strategy, by contrast, kills all existing pods before creating new ones, leading to a service outage. Which kubectl command would you use to view the logs of a container named web container in a pod? Named web pod. Option A. Kubectl get logs web pod. Option B. Kubectl describe pod web pod. Option C. Kubectl logs web pod C web container. Option D. Kubectl watch web pod. The correct answer is C. Kubectl logs is the standard command for retrieving logs from a pod. If a pod has multiple containers, you must specify the container name using the C or container flag. If the pod only has one container, the container name is optional. Which Kubernetes resource is used to manage external access to services in a cluster, typically providing HTTP/HTTPS load balancing? Option A. Service. Option B. Ingress. Option C. Egress. Option D. Network policy. The correct answer is B. An ingress is an API object that manages external access to the services in a cluster, typically HTTP. Ingress can provide load balancing, SSL termination, and name-based virtual hosting, while a service of type LoadBalancer can also expose an app. Ingress is more cost-effective for managing multiple services under a single IP entry point using path-based or host-based routing. What is the primary role of the kubelet on a Kubernetes node? Option A. To manage the container network interface, CNI. Option B. To ensure that containers described in pod specs are running and healthy. Option C. To route traffic to the correct pod based on IP. Option D. To store the cluster configuration state. The correct answer is B. The kubelet is an agent that runs on each node in the cluster. It works in terms of a pod spec, a YAML or JSON object that describes a pod. The kubelet takes a set of pod specs that are provided through various mechanisms, primarily through the API server, and ensures that the containers described in those pod specs are running and healthy. It does not manage containers that were not created by Kubernetes. Which reclaim policy in a persistent volume ensures the data is kept but the volume is made unavailable for other claims after the PVC is deleted? Option A. Delete. Option B. Recycle. Option C. Retain. Option D. Archive. The correct answer is C. The retain reclaim policy allows for manual reclamation of the resource. When the persistent volume claim is deleted, the persistent volume still exists and the volume is considered released. But it is not yet available for another claim because the previous claimant's data remains on the volume. An administrator must manually reclaim the volume by deleting the PV and cleaning up the data. Which controller is best suited for stateful applications like databases, e.g., MySQL, MongoDB? Option A. Deployment. Option B. Stateful set. Option C. Daemon set. Option D. Job. The correct answer is B. Stateful set is the workload API object used to manage stateful applications. Unlike a deployment, a stateful set maintains a sticky identity for each of their pods. These pods are created from the same spec, but are not interchangeable. Each has a persistent identifier, e.g., POD0, POD1, that it maintains across any rescheduling. This is critical for databases that require stable network IDs and stable persistent storage. What happens if a pod's readiness probe fails? Option A. The pod is immediately restarted by the kubelet. Option B. The pod is removed from the service's endpoints. Option C. The pod is deleted and recreated by the deployment. Option D. The node is marked as not ready. The correct answer is B. A readiness probe determines if a container is ready to start accepting traffic. If the readiness probe fails, the endpoints controller removes the pod's IP address from the endpoints of all services that match the pod. This ensures that no traffic is sent to a pod that isn't ready to handle it. This is different from a liveness probe, which would trigger a restart. What is the command line tool used to communicate with the Kubernetes API server? Option A. KubeDem. Option B. kubectl. Option C. kubecontrol. Option D. k8s-cli. The correct answer is B. kubectl is the command line tool for controlling Kubernetes clusters. It allows you to run commands against Kubernetes clusters to create, inspect, update, and delete resources. It looks for a file named config in the $home kube directory by default to authenticate with the API server. How are config maps usually consumed by a pod? Option A. Only as environment variables. Option B. Only as files in a volume. Option C. As environment variables, command line arguments, or files in a volume. Option D. Via a direct API call from the application code only. The correct answer is C. Config maps are versatile. You can inject the data into a container as environment variables, env, pass them as command line arguments to the container's entry point, or mount the config map as a volume where each key in the config map appears as a file name and the value appears as the file content. Which Kubernetes component manages the network rules on nodes to allow network communication to your pods from network sessions inside or outside of your cluster? Option A. kubeAppServer. Option B. kubeProxy. Option C. Core DNS. Option D. Flannel. The correct answer is B. kubeProxy is a network proxy that runs on each node in your cluster. It maintains network rules using IP tables or IPVS on nodes. These network rules allow network communication to your pods from network sessions inside or outside of your cluster. It is the component that actually implements the service abstraction. Which resource is used to run a task to completion exactly once? Option A. Deployment. Option B. cron job. Option C. Job. Option D. Replica set. The correct answer is C. A job creates one or more pods and will continue to retry execution of the pods until a specified number of them successfully terminate. As pods successfully complete, the job tracks the successful completions. When the specified number of successful completions is reached, the task, job, is complete. This is ideal for batch processing or data migrations. What does the crash loop back-off status usually indicate in a pod? Option A. The scheduler cannot find a node for the pod. Option B. The container is failing to start and Kubernetes is waiting before trying again. Option C. The pod is being moved to another node. Option D. The Docker image is not found in the registry. The correct answer is B. Crash loop backoff means that the container is crashing repeatedly. Kubernetes tries to restart the container, but since it keeps crashing, Kubernetes introduces a back-off delay between restarts to avoid overwhelming the system. Common causes include application errors, missing environment variables, or misconfigured entry points. In a highly available Kubernetes cluster, what is the recommended minimum number of master nodes? Option A, 1. Option B, 2. Option C, 3. Option D, 5. The correct answer is C. For high availability, a minimum of 3 master nodes is recommended. This is primarily because of etcd, which requires a majority quorum to function. With 3 nodes, you can tolerate the failure of one node. With 2 nodes, if one fails, you lose quorum, and the cluster stops functioning. Which Kubernetes feature allows you to restrict which pods can communicate with each other? Option A, RBAC. Option B, Network Policy. Option C, Pod Security Policy. Option D, Admission Controller. The correct answer is B. Network policy is a specification of how groups of pods are allowed to communicate with each other and other network endpoints. It functions like a firewall for pods. Layer 3 or 4. By default, pods are non-isolated. They accept traffic from any source. Once a network policy is applied, the pods are isolated according to the rules defined in the policy. What happens if a deployment is deleted? Option A. Only the deployment object is deleted. Pods remain running. Option B. The deployment and its associated replica sets and pods are all deleted. Option C. The deployment is deleted, but the replica set is kept as a backup. Option D. The command will fail if pods are still running. The correct answer is B. By default, when you delete a deployment, the Kubernetes garbage collector also deletes the underlying replica sets and the pods that were created by that deployment. This is because these objects are linked via owner references in their metadata. What is the purpose of the core DNS component in Kubernetes? Option A. To provide IP addresses to the nodes. Option B. To provide service discovery within the cluster via DNS names. Option C. To route external traffic to the master node. Option D. To encrypt traffic between pods. The correct answer is B. Core DNS is a flexible, extensible DNS server that can serve as the Kubernetes cluster DNS. It allows pods to find other services using names, e.g., my-service.my namespace.svc, cluster, local, instead of relying on hard-coded IP addresses, which change frequently in a dynamic container environment. Which of the following is used to pass environment-specific configuration to an application without rebuilding the container image? Option A, Docker Compose. Option B, ConfigMap. Option C, Label. Option D, Annotation. The correct answer is B. Config maps allow you to decouple configuration artifacts from image content to keep containerized. Applications portable. Instead of baking config files into the image, you store them in a config map and mount them at runtime. This allows you to use the same image in dev, QA, and production while just changing the config map content. What is RBAC in the context of Kubernetes? Option A. Resource-based access control. Option B. Remote binary access code. Option C. Role-based access control. Option D. Rule-based admission control. The correct answer is C. Role-based access control. RBAC is a method of regulating access to computer or network resources based on the roles of individual users within an enterprise. In Kubernetes, RBAC uses roles to define permissions and role bindings to grant those permissions to users, groups, or service accounts. Which command is used to scale a deployment named WebApp to 5 replicas? Option A. kubectl scale deployment WebApp replicas equals 5. Option B. kubectl set replicas WebApp 5. Option C. kubectl update deployment WebApp count equals 5. Option D. kubectl edit WebApp scale equals 5. The correct answer is A. The kubectl scale command is used to set a new size for a deployment. Replica set, replication controller, or stateful set. Scaling can be done imperatively with this command or declaratively by updating the replicas field in the YAML file and running kubectl apply. What is an empty dir volume? Option A. A volume that persists data even after the pod is deleted. Option B. A temporary directory that is created when a pod is assigned to a node and exists as long as that pod is running on that node. Option C. A volume used to share data between different pods on different nodes. Option D. A volume used specifically for storing secrets. The correct answer is B. An empty dir volume is first created when a pod is assigned to a node and exists as long as that pod is running on that node. As the name says, it is initially empty. All containers in the pod can read and write the same files in the empty dir volume. When a pod is removed from a node for any reason, the data in the empty dir is deleted permanently. Which of these is not a valid namespace in a default Kubernetes installation? Option A. Default. Option B. Kubesystem. Option C. Kubepublic. Option D. Kubemaster. The correct answer is D. Kubernetes starts with 4 initial namespaces. Default. For objects with no other namespace. Kubesystem. For objects created by the Kubernetes system. Kubepublic. Readable by all users. Used for cluster discovery. And Kubenode lease. For node heartbeat leases. Kubemaster is not a standard default namespace. You describe a pod and see the error image pull. What is the most likely cause? Option A. The pod is out of memory. Option B. The container image name is misspelled or the registry requires authentication. Option C. The node is disconnected from the network. Option D. The service account does not have permission to run pods. The correct answer is B. Image pull means the kubelet tried to pull the container image from a registry, like Docker Hub, but failed. This is usually due to a typo in the image name, a non-existent tag, or because the image is private and the cluster doesn't have the correct image pool secrets to authenticate. That wraps up our 30 essential Kubernetes practice questions. How many did you get right? Let me know your score in the comments below. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more DevOps deep dives. Don't forget to check the link in the description for the full practice exam and study guide. For the full 500+ question practice set and hands-on labs, check the link in the description below.